All right, welcome to our video on area of 2D figures. This is going to be a quick review of rectangles, triangles, parallelograms, and trapezoids from last year.
All right, we're going to remember the difference between perimeter and area. Perimeter is the distance around the outside of a shape. Area is the amount of space inside of the shape. When we're talking about units, the perimeter would be the centimeter, the inches, the units. Because we're adding all the dimensions up, the area would be inches times inches, which would be inches squared or centimeters squared, because you're multiplying a base and a height or a unit and a unit together.
All right, quick review of our formulas. For the area of a rectangle, area is equal to base times height. So the base times the height, the two measurements of our rectangle. For a parallelogram, same formula, base times height, but one of the things we have to watch for is the height of the figure always meets the base at a right angle. So just like we got done with in our last unit, look for that right angle symbol to help us know when we are looking at the height of a figure.
Trapezoid slants.
Yes. And then our last one for triangles, this one's going to be base times height divided by 2. Because remember, a triangle is just half of the rectangle or half of the parallelogram around it. And sometimes you might see it as 1/2 base times height, but multiplying times 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. But those are all formulas you should know from last year.
All right, find the perimeter and the area of each figure. So it looks like we have 4 as our base, 3 as our height. Can you write in the 4 and the 3 for the other dimensions? So it looks like we have 14 units for our perimeter.
So she just added together all 4 of her sides.
And then the area would be a 4 times 3, which would be 12 units squared. We want them to write out the 4 times 3 when they're showing their work, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right, next one, our perimeter. And this is where you have to be careful. Perimeter is the edges. So I want my 3, I want my 6.8. Sorry, that was supposed to be straight. And then another 3. And then another 6.8. So I'm going to add all of those together. 3, 6, 18. I should have 19.6 centimeters because it's just the lengths of the sides being added together. But when I switch over to the area, remember we talked about it's base times height, but you have to be careful about the base and the height. In this case, my base is 3, but my height is always that measurement going straight up from the base at a right angle. So here is my height. So I'm going to do 3 times 6 is 18. Since it's area, it's going to be centimeters squared because I multiplied centimeters times centimeters.
All right, our perimeter is giving us the slants, so 26 plus 26 plus 32, 84 feet all the way around that triangle. Our base is going to be 32 feet. Our height is going to be 12 where that box is. We're going to divide that by 2. Survey says 192 feet squared.
So base times height, but don't forget that divided by 2. And then our lovely trapezoids. Remember, in a trapezoid, it has one set of parallel sides, but they're different lengths, so we have to call them base 1 and base 2. To find our area, we're going to do the height times, and then we're going to add together base 1 plus base 2. We're going to add the two bases together. We're going to multiply times the height, and then we're going to divide it by 2. Or sometimes you might see it written as 1/2, because multiplying times a half is the same thing as dividing by 2. 1/2 times the height, and then base 1 plus base 2.
We really got to watch adding those together first or hitting equals on our calculator before multiplying by the height, or your order of operations on our calculator will be wrong. So we have 6 plus 12, which gives us 18.
And then we're going to multiply times our
7
height.
And divide by 2.
So make sure you've written out your formula, plugging in the right numbers before you go ahead and do the math.
18 divided by 2 is 9. 9 times 7 is 63, so 63 inches squared.
All right, next one. And again, watch for your bases, watch for your height. So your bases are the two that are directly across from each other and are parallel. So I'm going to add together 28 plus 55.
Which is 83.
I'm going to multiply times my height. Remember, my height is at that right angle, straight up from one base to the other. So that's my 19. And then I'm going to go ahead and divide it by 2. And what do I get as my final answer, Mrs. King?
788.5 inches squared.
Now, calculator is totally fine for doing the actual calculation, but be careful how you type it in. But you do have to show us your formula, what numbers are being added or multiplied or divided, so we know how you got to that final answer.
With units.
All right, last two. We're not going to do these in the video. You are welcome to give these a try if you want to. Think about how you're going to break up those shapes, but otherwise we're going to go over these two together tomorrow during class.
Have a good night.